think that's
Everyone, welcome. We were in closed session for a couple of hours tonight, and we are now back in public session. So, in the meeting, as we always do, staying for the Pledge of Allegiance, and then you could please remain standing for a moment of silence to honor our troops here. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. We'll start with the approval of minutes. I'm going to ask that we not vote on the May 1st meeting minutes. I need to take a look at those. And are there any questions about the two April 17th meeting minutes from the
just
council?
speak up a little, I'm sorry.
Sure, of course. So I'm looking for a motion to approve the following minutes: April 17th closed session minutes and the April 17th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Actually, I'm going to abstain. I didn't have a chance to review those. Administrative reports. Has everybody had a chance to look at the administrative reports?
There wasn't one with stormwater management coordinator this month.
Yeah, I don't know why. I'm sorry.
I
Yeah, she's been very busy.
bet.
Yeah. But I don't know why there was a report. We've also been busy. Cindy Iggy's joining us online tonight. She's been out this week, and so Lindsay and I have been a little bit more than usual. Any other questions or comments about the administrative reports? Okay, may I have a motion to accept them, please?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Now we'll move to public participation and constituent concerns. We ask that if you would like to speak, that you step up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time for your questions or comments that council may or may not respond.
Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I just wanted to start off and say that I thought that last week was a momentous event in town last Thursday, when so much of the community showed up. I think it was the biggest crowd I've seen at a council meeting since, or at a meeting in town since we had our first Penn East meeting 10 years ago. And I just think that it was important that everyone came and asked good questions and spoke out. However, I came out of that meeting with some serious concerns after listening to the presentation. And when you think about the size of this project and part of the problems that we have in this town, it is so overwhelming, both the project and the problems. I mean, tonight you're taking the first good step with passing a historic preservation order, new ordinance. I think that's important. But it also shows why we need to change our parking ordinance that was changed 3-4 years ago. Because they came forward and said that they only need 93 spots. And given the fact that you have a wedding mill with 175 people, you have a hotel with 49, you have a 7-cave spa, whatever that means, you've got a coffee shop, you've got, we've also already got a restaurant and a bar there. It just seems way, way too small. I think between the staff and everything else, you could have at least 300 cars coming just to that one place, because it's really a luxury mega hotel complex. Is what you have to look at, because there's so many different buildings. Other thing is that they said they were exempted from stormwater, and because it's a redevelopment site, yeah, they're not going to fit in under the DRBC and the DEP rules, but our rules need to catch that. And we have some language in it, but I don't think they're strong enough. And this is a massive development. There's already problems there. There's flooding and water quality issues. That canal is a drinking water supply of 1.5 million people, and it just drives me nuts why DEP doesn't have a better program on redevelopment for stormwater. The next is, as we found out, and I know you mentioned the last meeting, we're not been putting affordable housing here, but we don't charge for commercial development fee. We need to fix that because it's going to add jobs, it's going to increase our, not this round, not round 4, but round 5, it will increase the numbers. And we also need the housing and to have some kind of fee. I mean, you don't want to put it everywhere, but just on large scale projects or, I think it's important. And then finally, everything they said could be approved under a current zoning. And part of the problem is that zoning goes back to 1993, when this town was suffering and struggling and trying to find its way forward. We're now a very vibrant community where now we have big corporations that are even national in scope coming into town to build, and big hospitality companies and everything else to do huge projects. So the world has changed and the town has changed, and we really need to update our zoning to make it more appropriate to what we want the vision of the town to be versus a catch-all zoning that where we just were hoping people would come and do things in town. And then finally, today there was a very important article in the Bucks County Herald that I think, one picture's worth 1,000 words, showing the map of where the contaminated wells are and to what levels they're contaminated. And the highest level of contamination is in the area next to the garbage dump. Doesn't mean it's necessarily from the garbage dump. It could also get in there from the former high school site, but it also shows that it's blinking red, and that's a warning, or maybe a stop sign to say that completely not an appropriate site for affordable housing or for any housing, and given all the other constraints. So I think that was an important lesson today too. Hopefully we will act on it going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Last meeting when I spoke, I did want to clarify this development fee is applicable to all new construction.
Oh, it is?
projects.
Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure how I worded that, but I went back and checked with the
Okay.
construction office.
Yeah,
so,
because I meant you.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah, not at all.
I would just add one thing, Jeff, too. The meeting also showed we really need new sound system. I can
Yes.
see how important it was, but everything else I agree as well, so.
Right, but I do want to just because it's my pet peeve, so thanks for sharing it, is that we do need to do a reexamination of the master plan and update our zoning because there are just so many different changes, there's a lot of generational change and ownership and just the way, things are done that, we do have to plan for our community. It's a different world than it was in the 90s, and we have to be, looking forward, The future is, the future is upon us. I welcome the future, but we do have to, be good stewards of our community.
Yeah, Councilwoman and I spoke about this at a meeting yesterday. I think it is time to look at our zoning. Last time I asked Crystal about this, I think she said it's been more than 10 or 15 years since we've really done any kind of wholesale examination of zoning. So it's something that's talking about, and we're going to be talking about, and share everybody's input on that.
I would just also add to the one thing that I just find incredible is that the fact they're not going to be doing any stormwater management. And you look at a development that size and you look at the city of Lambertville, and obviously we all know about stormwater management, for them not to want to do that, I think is a big mistake.
Right. Yeah. And one last point, not to belabor it, but I will belabor it. In discussions that I have recently with the Canal Commission, there is a lot of input that they are going to be providing. We have to be careful of because it is a drinking water source. And if they feel the integrity of the canal is affected, they can even refer this to the New Jersey Water Supply Authority. So, there is some, hopefully we'll be able to have a further look at it from that perspective, because it comes right up to, the canal. And if the banks of the canal are threatened even, that they, with digging, yes, and with the foundations, so there are a lot of considerations in that regard that should come up as they take a look at that plan.
Okay. I also support taking a look at the master plan and kind of bringing it into the 21st century. So much has changed, and we're a quarter into this century, and there's so much that has accelerated change on so many levels that it's an appropriate and beneficial activity.
I'm This is
This
very
one's
good
really
sound
loud.
today. Several years ago, had a conversation, and it was about a project that was going on, I won't call it out. And at that point, I had a conversation, and I said, we gotta look at all the zoning laws that we're living by, that some of them were started in 1978. And about certain developments in certain zones, and when you look back at it, it's like, when that was done, the activities in the neighborhoods were already established, so when they wrote the zoning, they wrote it to include pre-existing non-conforming use, is what it was called. So a lot of time has been spent on dealing with that, from project to project, but I think it's, and I agree, it's long overdue, and to just review our ordinances and our zoning and make sure it's in compliance to how we're actually living now, and bring it up to date. So I look forward to that.
Next, please.
Dave Murray, 255 Brunswick Avenue. Last Thursday was certainly enlightening. One thing that immediately jumped on my mind, in addition to the zoning and planning and all of those things, because they're long-term, if I remember correctly, they're very real long-term issue items. All right, and the developer may be, working off of that and maybe pushing through to make it happen under the existing ordinances, or regulations. One thing that really caught my attention, along with many others, we own 120 feet of frontage, and so we'll be able to have lots of parking to drop off people, et cetera, et cetera. I think that, and I believe, that may be in the city ordinance. All right, that needs to be really clarified, that that frontage does not give you parking, because, even you don't have a free parking lot in front. Nobody in this town, and none of the business, Finkel's never had parking in front of their stores. And it's something that I think you can look at very quickly, all right, and make a change, and then any developer will know what it is going forward. Just a suggestion.
Thank you.
If I could add one thought.
May I first, Bill, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I don't believe that frontage entitles anybody to public parking or any parking whatsoever in the right of way. Everything is dictated by ordinance, and arranged by ordinance. So I would characterize that as someone misspeaking about something. So did you hear? I'm sorry. Did you hear that?
I can, if you.
Yeah, of course, I'm sorry. Dave. Yeah, just because you have frontage on a public street doesn't entitle you to any parking whatsoever in the right of way. That's all established by ordinance. So I would just characterize his remarks as a mischaracterization or a mistake. So,
But Mayor, if I may, so it is absolutely in the ordinance today that is not a true, that is not a given right.
correct.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I had brought up a question about, because of the setup that I saw, about possibly them doing valet parking, which if they did that, they would have to come to the city to get permission to do that in parking spaces. But as far as free parking on the street, it just doesn't happen.
There's vendors there, aren't there?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Next, please.
Sean Ellis, 21 Belvedere Avenue. So just in light of the Bucks County Herald article today about PFAS on Conant Hill, I think that there are actually a few ways that the city could really help our cause and help people get clean water faster. And one is to ask the DEP to file a Spill Act directive that would allow the DEP to work more closely with the city, identifying who still hasn't been tested or remediated, and to, either, if the DEP can't test all of those wells, maybe the city can help test those wells. I think we got a lot of money from, cannabis tax in the past few years. I think a little bit of it could be put towards maybe getting people clean water, helping them get there. And so a spill act directive, and then, also if we could convince them to, move on declaring it an area of immediate environmental concern, that will help them expedite the process, and that becomes their priority. So those are two ways that we could, without even putting any money out, help people, help residents, and certainly helping people test, getting that one certified test so they can get the spill fund to pay for the filtration system is a big step. And then the other thing that might cost some time and labor, but not necessarily big, a lot, is helping people just file the paperwork for the spill fund. A lot of residents have been picking up the slack, and we have full-time jobs. We got a lot of stuff going on. I think it's time for the city to maybe pick up a little bit of the slack there and help people get clean water, as I said. So thank you.
Thanks. I'm just gonna make a general remark here. Yeah, of course. So the council has been considering things in closed session, and I think that our meeting on June 5th will be able to outline some steps that we'd like to take that will hopefully have a positive and fairly immediate impact on the situation. So let us continue to do our work and come to the meeting on the 5th. I think we'll have some positive news for the community. Just a couple of other updates while we're talking about PFAS. I did speak with the commissioner, DEP commissioner's office today. They're going to be sending a formal letter to the city about some of the activities. And as I noted in Lambertville Matters, the state has requested access to the Lambertville high school site for testing. So we will see how that goes. And we're staying on top of that. I did also have an email exchange with the DEP this week as well. And I've been asking them about when these additional testing letters are going to go out, 20 additional tests on Cottage Hill and 20 tests on Connet Hill. And I got an email yesterday saying that from someone, she thought that the letters were going out today. So people should be looking out for letters in the city over the next, next few days for that additional testing. So when we have more information, we'll certainly share it. And we're going to be able to start making some progress on this very soon. Is there anyone else in the room?
I would just add real quickly, Sean, thank you for all the work that you're doing up there, helping everyone out too, because I know all the residents, you guys are all helping each other, and that's just one of the great things about that. So thanks for all the work.
Hi, John Towns, 14 Hancock. So I was reviewing the letter from DEP to Mr. Wilson, and second paragraph specifically states, documentation shows that municipal landfill operated in Cotton Hill area of Lambertville, the West Denver unit, the 1960 on property currently owned by Academy Hill, and it goes through all the other listings. It also is very specific as to the tax map addresses. Is the city going to take ownership of this now, or are we still going to play around? There's a dump up there, gentlemen and ladies. We've known about it for years. We don't understand why the city won't address it. It's frustrating. Now, I know you may want the current owner of the property to take responsibility for it, but we're the residents being affected by it. Our city council is supposed to be there for us. Again, DEP said it here in their letter. I don't know why we're dragging feet still. I'm also hopeful you guys can share information with the court or with information that you receive from the court. I don't know if all that is still private or not, but a lot of us are quite interested to find out if where we are with this builder's remedy. And the fact that information wasn't readily available for the court regarding the land and water contamination. So, all right, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Sure. So, you know, this is, I'll ask Bill away, and if he has any additional information, but because we're in potentially ongoing litigation with K.R. Damien, and we already received over 25 notices of tort claim, we're not going to comment on any matters relating to that threat litigation, where the city may or may not be a party or is a party. So I don't know if you have anything else to add on that, Bill. And then just in terms, you know, there's a little bit of misinformation. If you read the briefs filed by the city, contamination was noted as something that was noted by our attorney, and otherwise we're not going to comment on legal strategy. As I've said before, I think we have excellent professionals. The council has in fact weighed in on and has had access to the professionals to offer advice or suggestions in terms of legal strategy. So that's all this is.
I think you just wanted to ask for an update though, right?
Yeah, I
Well,
think,
like
I think
status.
an update
Okay, so
on when we have oral argument.
June 5th we have.
Okay.
So
June
nothing's been
fifth, there
decided.
is, yeah, but June fifth, explain what oral argument, or June fifth, there will be
Now,
an
will
oral
that-
argument just on the matter, you know, on the other questions about the builder's remedy and whether or not we're allowed to make.
And again, I
our
realize
proposed.
I'm out of by not being up there, but will
Okay, go ahead.
residents be able to go to the court and watch?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
Sorry.
it's a open, anyone can go into the courthouse, the Hunter County Courthouse, you can go there. I mean, I sat and I watched it. There were a couple other people there as well. So it's gonna be Judge Ballard this time, who's gonna be deciding this motion. The judge before was the former municipal court judge in Lambertville. And so this question, he didn't feel it was appropriate for him to decide on that based upon his prior relationship with Lambertville. So it got moved to Judge Ballard. I don't believe there's any new briefing or anything like that. Judge Ballard is gonna have oral argument on the date that is June 5th. So.
Right, and if, I think, and you can contact the court and get a link if you can't go in person. And also to the mayor's reference that, you know, just I've not been shy about adding to our professionals where I think that we should be going in our oral argument, not to get specific. But I think that I understand what you say, I hear your point on that. And I've been heard here.
And you can write a letter as well. Many people have written letters. I checked the court file. They uploaded all of them. So they are now part of the record that the judge absolutely is going to review those in connection with this too. So, you know, feel free if you need any help getting your letter to the courthouse, you know, let me know and I'm happy to walk you through that process too.
Beth O'Brien, 2 Hancock Street. Just to add to this conversation, the notices that I've seen on the docket for Judge Ballard show that this meeting will be held June 5th at 2:15 via Zoom, not in person.
Anyone else in the room like to offer public comment? Please step to the podium, state your name and address. 3 minutes.
Chris Jane, 13 Coryell Street. I just wanted to add on to earlier comments about looking at the ordinance and zoning. Is that something you guys can put a timeline to and do it sooner rather than later? And the only reason why I'm bringing it up is obviously I will be greatly affected. I live on Coryell Street, but I travel to Hudson, Savannah, New Orleans. These are towns like ours built around the same time period, and they're preserved. And the residents all have these beautiful homes and lives, and they bustle with tourism. It's not going to stop anything. We are still a popular town, whether we build big or not. I think also to compare things up on the corner where the grade is higher, or things on the canal that are not dwarfing other homes is an unfair comparison. But again, I guess the only thing I want to say is, can you look at it sooner rather than later? Thank you.
Yeah, I might be able to answer that question, really. I mean, looking at the zoning ordinance is a very, if you're going to look at all of them. I think that Bill would probably agree that looking at specific ordinances now, well, the plan has not been submitted, but I think it could be problematic to look at ordinances that may be related to the central business district at this particular moment. What we don't want to do is set up the city for any kind of legal action based on sort of preemptively making something, preemptively affecting a potential plan. Bill, do you have anything to add on that? I mean, zoning ordinances are just going to take a long time. I mean, I don't know if anybody's ever read any of them, but they're a lot. And we've had a couple of subcommittees look at certain things over the last couple of years, and it takes a long time to get consensus. You need a formalized effort. I'm not even sure what that looks like just yet. So in the short term, I would say, no, I mean, not in the next few months, that's for sure.
Well, I would just say master plan, though, I mean, regardless of this project, I mean, we need to look at that no matter what. So regardless of the project that's been proposed, we need to be thinking about the next project. So
Because the master plan is really the underpinnings of your zoning. So when you start to take a look at the master plan, that's like, not to get technical, but I will, it's the avenue to get to the zoning. But if you're gonna mention the Z word, I think what is very important is, I can't touch that, is that, as we go down the road, our interpretation of what meets our zoning code and what isn't, when folks come in and they make an application, they say, oh, we're doing this and we meet all your requirements of your zoning. It's up to us to make that determination. They don't make that determination. So, there's a couple of things, I think that were discussed the other evening, that touched on that topic, but that's something to be vigilant on, and we as a community want to make sure that our zoning is being interpreted correctly.
Definitely agree. And that's it.
Thank you. Michelle Harris, 26 Church Street. Following up on the question about zoning, Mayor, your comments just now about taking care to not set the city up for problems or perception of an issue that we're preemptively getting in the way of development, I guess. That was my question coming up here, and I just want to be very clear. So the zoning and plan documents that will prevail in considering this development that we're considering at Coriel, as they're written today, that's what will apply, even if we started to consider anything. My point being that if we want to push back on development, right, if we want to use the tools that we have to kind of shape development in a way that we want our town to be, we're not going to be able to rely on a change of ordinance. Those rules are in play. So to any point that they are going to leave the gates open further than we'd like them to be for this development, that train has left the station, correct?
Yeah.
And we're kind of stuck with that for now, right?
If that's, are you at the end of your comment?
Yeah, that's my question, because I just want to make sure that people understand that if we're going to, that if we have to use the zoning and master plan documents as they are today to apply to that development proposal, for example, then we have to figure out other strategies. That's not a tool that we're going to effectively be able to use to kind of hem this in. And I want to be clear on that to make sure I understand.
Well, so, and I'm going to have Bill kind of shadow me on this answer because I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. But first thing to note is that there's no application, nothing's been submitted to the city yet, right? So that's an important note. So we don't know what's being submitted, and we don't know how that will align or not align with existing ordinances and code. So that's an important thing to make, I think. I'll let Bill speak to maybe a little bit more in depth. So we do have a master plan, and it is 4 years away from its typical reexamination. So the master plan reexamination, last one was done in 2019. So typically the reexamination of the master plan is done every 10 years. We can certainly do it sooner, and it sounds like there's a lot of interest in doing it sooner. I'm happy to do it sooner. I think it's a fairly large undertaking. I have not done it, so I don't know what specifically is involved in that. Planners and, you know, professionals and public comment and all of that. So, you know, we do have a master plan in place and a reexamination plan in place that defines our goals currently. So, and, you know, the idea of amending zoning ordinances kind of proactively or even maybe reactively on a particular project, I think could have problematic legal ramifications. And this is where I want Bill to kind of speak a little bit more to this because I'm not an attorney.
There's a number of cases that deal with municipal zoning changes in response to those projects. There's different nuances. Say that.
Could you just speak up a little
Well,
bit?
There's a lot of cases that deal with municipalities changes or amending zoning ordinances in response to specific projects. There's a lot of nuances to each of those cases, so I'm really not going further than that. It's a matter that the courts have addressed previously, and you know, it's all fact dependent. So I'm not going to each of those. It's out there that the court that this issue is from us.
So the point is, we'll just have to be creative beyond leveraging those.
Well,
Yeah.
I creative is the right word. You know, well, no, if I may. So in my time on the planning board, the 3 years that I've served on the planning board, there are, you know, when the cannabis, my first baptism by fire, right, on the planning board for the cannabis businesses. And while you can't force a particular applicant to do something that's not in the code, you have a room full of people, you have participants, you have, I suppose you could say leverage, you have, and you maybe not even, you could call it leverage if you're a cynic, but maybe it's more about cooperation, right? This is a concern for our residents, you're hearing it now, this is a concern for our board. Let's think about a way that we can adapt, you know, and for you to kind of come to some solution here for something that is a concern to the community. And those things happen in real time at boards with public participation and the expertise of the board members and the attorney and whoever else, the planner, whoever else may be in the room. So I don't want to say that, you know, things will happen, right? So, you know, the planning board applications for the cannabises, we did not in the ordinance require traffic studies. But in those meetings, which went till 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning, you know, it was decided in the meeting that the planning board was going to make, as a condition of approval, traffic studies, and not just any traffic studies, the traffic studies that the city got to choose, right? We got to choose the professionals, not the applicant. So there's a lot that happens kind of in these meetings, as you probably know. So, you know, it's not just about kind of what they come with, it's about how, you know, it's about how responsive they are, kind of things that come up in the community. And I would say in some high profile applications or future applications, you know, there's already going to be, I would hope, a sensitivity on behalf of the applicant coming in, knowing that, you know, the community has already expressed very, very publicly that X, Y, and Z are issues. And the planning board, you know, in its mission to both work within the confines of the zoning, of the ordinances, but also be mindful of the impact, you know, that may not have been considered by an ordinance, that additional conditions can be imposed. So it's a long answer, but you know, there's lots to talk about.
Thank you. I have one brief comment, if I may, on a different topic, on the PFAS topic. I think a lot of people come to this podium and speak in the community and wonder if your voice matters. And as the PFAS situation on Comet Hill is sad and frustrating and unacceptable, wholly. But I will say that it's given us an amazing example of what it means to use your voice for good. So, Sean, and everyone who has stood up here, when it was not a popular topic and it was not addressed by this council for months, it's now on the table. I'm very proud of the community. And I think it's time, beyond time, for the council and mayor and everyone else involved to get behind this. Thank you.
Next, please.
comment.
Yes, please, Councilman.
After leaving the meeting, I just thought that, when someone comes into the city, and I'm not specific to what we heard, in other, but comes into the city with a dream, I don't want it to be Lambertville's nightmare. And that's kind of how I'm approaching this whole thing. So, we'll do what we can do and be proactive where we can be proactive. And that's kind of my mindset going forward.
Anyone else in the room? Anyone online, Lindsay?
Yes, we have 11 people online and 2 people with their hands raised. Mr. Thurber, will you please state your name and address for the record and then state your question or comment?
Yes, thank you very much. Good evening. I'm Bart Thurber, living at 53 Lambert Lane, and some of my comments may be redundant, but I think worth adding to the record. Following last Thursday's presentation by the developers of the Hotel Coryell project, I went back to look at the relevant municipal zoning ordinances, specifically those in the section related to design standards for the central business district. While I'm sure that the city's planning experts will thoroughly review any plans and proposals submitted for approval to make sure they adhere to these guidelines, I'm equally certain that the developers' architects have already done the same. Given that to be the case, I'm trying to figure out how Lambertville's ordinances could possibly allow at least a 2-story parking garage to be consistent with the quote, physical, visual, and spatial characteristics of immediate and nearby buildings, unquote, on Lambert Lane and Coryell Street. How is it that a plan with as many as, per the developer's own words, as many as 50 cars per hour entering and exiting the parking deck, some of which via Lambert Lane, which at its narrowest section has a right-of-way as wide as one-way George Street, and that's not counting additional 2-way traffic heading back and forth to the old River Horse Brewery site, could be proposed. It will be especially interesting to see, according to the section related to structured parking, how the required traffic impact study will not indicate there will be, quote, no unreasonably adverse impact on public streets in the same or adjacent zone, unquote. Unfortunately, since I'm seriously concerned, like others, about the effectiveness of Lambertville's zoning ordinances, and although it may be too late to mitigate the effects of the massive Hotel Coryell project, I, along with others, hope that consideration will be given to updating regulations in the future to limit proposals that are completely out of line with the scale, mass, proportion, and architectural character of our neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Second person?
Hello?
Yes.
Can you hear? Good evening. John Henchek, 99 Quarry Street. Guess where, Lambertville, back from the dead. I want to bring up a few points, but if I could do so right now that may address the current issue here. As the past chair of the Lambertville Historic Preservation Commission, at the time, we were a strong board. The difference between a strong board and a weak board is that a strong board is regulatory, and therefore you seek out, if you need a relief, you have to take us to court. Whereas a weak board, you go to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. The current certified local, I guess it's called 08-2025, dealing with the certified local government. That takes you to the Zoning Board of Adjustment. We have been in the past, and I don't know how it was migrated from a strong board to a weak board, but the Historic Preservation Commission as a strong board, which they were until this change took place, have all of the power to stop whatever needs to be stopped because we have design standards. Now, I'm John Henchek. I am a certified, according to the Department of Interior standards, 36 CFR Part 61. I meet all the requirements of a historic preservation specialist. I've operated in that capacity for 50 years, and so is my wife. I came here in 1969 to do good, and I think I did. What has to move on is to make sure that our protections that we have here are the same ones that others have enjoyed, and that we can continue to enjoy the lifestyle that we deserve, because that's why we came to Lambertville. So I leave that with you. I can tell you right now, I ask you to please table 08-2025 and take a look at the certified local government 22-page PDF first before any action is taken. That's put out by the state. And at this particular time, I think a strong board would go a long way. But I really came here for another purpose, and that is to congratulate us on some discovery. The Holcomb Farm, it's not Holcomb Park, the Holcomb Farm is not only on the state and national register, it was considered to be historic by the federal government as of March the 2nd, 1934, when it was put on the Historic American Building Survey. The entire property was put on, and the building itself was recognized. How it happened, I can't tell you, but all of the properties that were in the Historic American Building Survey are National Historic Landmarks. And the Holcomb Farm is a National Historic Landmark. And I believe that our state senators, either Booker or Andy Kim, would be very happy to carry this one across the wire, because it's a slam dunk. It requires none of the other requirements. In addition to that, the Holcomb Farm is on the Battlefield Protection Act, which I helped Senator Lautenberg get through an omnibus bill and get that passed. I've also been involved with the Crossroads of the American Revolution legislation, and it was my customer, as a favor to me, George W. Bush, when he was governor of Texas. He said to Jane Carrington, "Tell John I signed it today." So we have got a lot of protection here and a lot of good visibility. And lastly, I do believe it's very important that we understand, as we move into the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. I say this because I have the proof. What occurred here in Lambertville is the most significant military defeat of the British Army till Yorktown. And I do so because it's one way for me to launch my next book. I have all the proof I need, and it's just a matter of getting it together. I'll only leave you with the quote that supports what I have to say, and let me get it out so I don't mess it up. This was stated by Charles, Lord of Cornwallis. After the Battle of Yorktown, Cornwallis did show up at a customary dinner that they had, and he made this statement. At the end, he said to George Washington, "Fame will gather your brightest laurels from the banks of the Delaware rather than those of the Chesapeake," because he knew that when he was stopped here on December the 9th, 1776, between Lambertville and New Hope, it took to Yorktown for them to accomplish what they attempted to accomplish. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. For those who you don't know, I had been seriously injured, which is under investigation, and almost killed me. And suffocation on your own blood is something that gets kind of scary, particularly when you're turning blue from your feet up and your hands and the kid who's in the hospital tells you, we didn't make your bed because we didn't think you were going to make it. Well, I got news for him. I got everybody. I had, not only am I making it, I'm coming back as strong as I can. And I would like very much for the governing body to take a look at one other thing. Mr. Roy Myers has 3.5 acres. And he's been trying also hard to get it looked at for someone for affordable housing. He's located between 518 and Quarry Street. His wife has got a great idea, and that is the tiny house type of project, which would be something that could be looked into. And I know Roy well and be more than happy to introduce folks to him. And by the way, his mother is a Holcomb and in the DAR with Barbara. So thank you very much. Have a good evening, folks.
Thank you, John. It's good to hear your voice and to know that that you're still with us. We're glad about that, and we're always delighted to hear your stories and hear a little bit, be reminded of the history of Lambertville and our great nation. So thanks for being here very much. I appreciate your comments. Anyone else? Okay, how many people do we have online?
12.
12. All right. Well, good evening, everyone online. Thank you for attending. Let's see anyone else in the room, so I will ask for a motion to close the public comment period, please.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to a proclamation for the Monarch Butterfly Pledge. This is something that we are doing. We're undertaking a bit of a program to protect and encourage these incredible species here in Lambertville, working with Lambertville Goes Wild, planting lots and lots of milkweed. We planted a bunch of it at the City Hall lot. I saw like 5 monarch butterflies this week as I was walking my dog along the towpath. So good stuff. And unless anybody has any questions about that proclamation, I would ask for motion to adopt it. I'm going to make a motion to adopt it.
Second.
You guys are too slow. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Resolutions on the consent agenda. These are considered routine and they're typically acted in one motion. If any member of the city council seeks separate discussion of any item, that item will be removed and discussed separately. Does anyone have any questions on the consent agenda this evening?
No.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the consent agenda. Let me just read the numbers. Resolution numbers 88, 2025 through 93.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 94-2025. This is a resolution supporting an application for funds to the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, New Jersey Affordable Housing Trust Fund Program, and authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the City of Lambertville and Raritan Valley Habitat for Humanity Incorporated, in furtherance of the potential construction of 6 semi-detached houses to be located on a portion of the city-owned Holcomb Farm property. The MOU, council's been talking about this. We are, I think, united in our enthusiasm for getting something done, getting 6 houses built, affordable houses built on city-owned property. We've had a number of discussions in closed session and met with Habitat for Humanity. I think that we're ready to consider this resolution, which will authorize me and the city clerk to sign a memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity. This is really the beginning of a process which will probably take several years. The funding is it's a complicated funding structure. They go out for funding from the DCA and often from other sources. So this is really just the first step. This will also, as noted in the resolution, this will be something that we can write to Fair Share Housing about, assuming it will be adopted, and hopefully this will be able to amend our settlement agreement, which will then transfer the police station units to this project. So, which will bring us into full compliance for the third round, which is something that we've all been wanting to do for a long time. And this feels really good to me personally. I don't know if any of the council members wish to speak to this before I ask a motion.
You know, I'd only be restating the obvious, but it's great that we are, you know, we're taking the step. You know, we're building some affordable units, and we're making use of some property that we have now, and it's just a great opportunity for the community. I think it'll be a good learning experience, and we've had a great relationship with Habitat, and I really look forward to this moving forward.
I agree. I think it's very exciting. We obviously, we have not done enough in terms of affordable housing here in Lambertville. This is a huge step. I think the last time we built affordable housing was, what, 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago? Yeah. Yeah, so that's pretty amazing that we're getting 6 units. And, you know, I think unfortunately it was a mistake that we're put our affordable housing obligation on the police site. I think that was a big mistake. We realized that this is, you know, we're trying to make up for that and fix that hole. And you know, again, I hope Fair Share will support that with the court. So,
if my memory doesn't fail me, I think it's ironic that our affordable housing crisis that we're kind of wrapping up with this kind of started with removing an overlay on this very property. So I think it is more than fitting that we've come full circle and we're able to close the gap on the very property that, first, I don't know why, but it was done. And it just seems fortuitous. So I think it's great, and we need the housing, and these people are gonna have a great spot.
This is a case where the dream does not become a nightmare.
There you go.
So thanks for being really patient with us over these several years since we did agree to buy the property, and an idea that we had 4 years ago to use the property for housing is a dream come true. So I thank the council and the mayor for encouraging all of us and be able to supply something that we think is a great signal to other municipalities that we had a problem, and we solved it in a way to give people someplace to put their head at night. So, and I thank the public for being patient with us as well.
On that note, I would ask someone to make a motion to adopt resolution number 94-2025, authorizing the memorandum of understanding with Habitat for Humanity.
So
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Feels good. Resolution number 95-2025 is the resolution to authorize the donation of $500 to the Delaware Valley Senior Citizens for recreational and social activities for senior citizens in and around Lambertville. So the last meeting, this came up, and I said actually before it came up that one of the things that we do here in Lambertville is basically everybody gets to look at the budget, everybody gets a say, everybody makes a decision before we adopt it. This came after adoption, and so I thought it was appropriate that we consider it as a resolution. Does anybody have any questions about this? Have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm actually opposed to this one. I'm just going to note that I think the payment of $500 to a social and recreational group is not a good use of city funds. So I'm a no on this one. That said, the motion has been adopted. Approval of the bills list. Everybody got a chance to look at the bills?
Yes.
Okay. Have a motion to approve the bills list, please.
So moved.
Second. Okay, all in favor of paying the bills, please say aye. ordinances, first reading, ordinance 11-2025. This ordinance would amend the Lambertville City Code, Chapter 7, Traffic, Section 7.7.2, stop intersection, to add a four-way stop at Rosemont Avenue, Delaware Road intersection. As many residents know, Moose Mountain is cut through, kind of an unofficial shortcut from 29 to avoid the lights for those people who may be going to Route 179 north. Sometimes in the morning it has a fairly high level of traffic. We've had some conversations with neighbors up there lately. We've done a speed study. The speed study indicated that there wasn't really a significant speeding problem, but in consultation with some of the neighbors, it was felt that a four-way stop at that intersection would just have the effect of slowing everything down a little bit further, making people a little bit more conscious of the neighborhood in which they're driving. So that's the point of this ordinance. And does anybody have any questions about it?
No.
Okay, I have a motion to introduce ordinance number 11-2025 with a public hearing scheduled for June 26, 2025. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next would be ordinance number 12-2025. This ordinance of the City of Lambertville would amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Article 7, Department of Administration, 2-7.2, Division of Municipal Operations, letter E, purchasing, number 2, purchase by quotation. So this just really brings us into line with what the state does. So for example, I wrote last week about having to go on 3 different roofs. We have repairs, and in order to do that, our city code requires, even for small jobs, that we get 3 different appraisals. And that can be, it can be time consuming and it can slow things down. In the case of the DPW garage, there was significant damage to the roof. And so trying to get 3 different roofers out to, in the last week or two to get estimates was a conversation that we had at City Hall. And so this ordinance really just seeks to align with the state code, which requires that if you have a QPA, then you only need to get 2 quotes if they're below the threshold. So that's really just a housekeeping matter, I think. Are there any questions from the council on it? Okay. Would someone please make a motion to introduce on first reading ordinance number 12-2025 with the public hearing scheduled for June 26th?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on to second reading of ordinances. First one under consideration this evening is ordinance number 07-2025. This is an ordinance to amend the Lambertville City Code 2014, Chapter 10, the Uniform Construction Code enforcing agency to amend the fee schedule. So we introduced this on April 17th. These ordinance was requested by the construction office and makes really very minor increases to our schedule of fees for everything from basically all permitting fees and construction code fees. So I'll start by opening this up for public comment. If anybody in the room would like to speak to this specific ordinance, please step up to the podium. Is there anyone online who'd like to speak to it? Okay. A motion to close the public comment period then, please. So moved. Public hearing.
Second.
All right, all in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye. Any questions or comments from the council on this? All right, I'll make the motion to adopt on second reading, granting final approval of ordinance number 07-2025. Is there a second? Second. Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have ordinance number 08-2025. This ordinance will amend the Lambertville Land Use Ordinances, Article 9, Historic Preservation Commission, the Land Development Review, Section 900. So we had a kind of an introduction to this actually before April 17th. We had a specific time at the first April meeting when the public could ask questions and participate in an informal conversation about what amending this ordinance would do. And it was was also reviewed. We introduced it on April 17th. It was reviewed by the planning board and found consistent with the master plan. And now it's back here for the second reading and public hearing. So for those of you who haven't been in the room, this has been something that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. It's a terrific update, and it will allow us to have more kind of jurisdictional approach to kind of historic assets here in the city, potentially expanding the historic district. It'll allow us to finally become a member of the certified local government, which there are only 35 in New Jersey, which and part of that opens us up to grant funding for a variety of administrative and preservation projects. So we've talked about this a lot, and I think it's great, and it's already, there's a lot of these practices which are, our Historic Preservation Commission have already been doing as just best practices. So I'm going to open this up to public comment, and then if there are any specific questions that I can answer, we have Lisa Easton and Debbie Kelly here, both on the board. Lisa's, on the commission. Lisa's the chair, and Debbie and I have worked on this ordinance a lot over the last couple of years. So Debbie's very familiar with it as well. So is there anyone who would like to speak to this?
Margaret Carnelli here from Maxwell Assets, 243 and 278 North Union. Two initial points I want to make is to say thank you to everyone for their work on this. We were at several meetings back when the flood ordinance was adopted, and we were discussing the importance of the city becoming certified and the ordinance revision. So I'm going to say thank you, the same way we ask those questions in the public forum, because we think it is important for the city to become certified. I had three, well, I think there's some more clarification, and maybe if there could be misunderstanding on my part, but three quick points I wanted to raise. One is in the definitions. The sign application says that all applications for a certificate of appropriateness for a sign are classified as minor applications. And one thought we had was that if that same language was added in the definition of minor application as a new subpart C, that would provide clarification that they were going to be considered as minor applications. It's something, when our tenants come into a building, they want to be able to sign the lease, pay rent, and move in right away. And our signs are really existing signs. And we understand if you put a new sign, that's different. But these are existing signs. So that was one change that we were requesting, just to clarify, by including the language from the definition in a sign application, in the definition of a minor application. The second request that we had was there are a list of activities, actions that don't require any review. For example, replacement in kind, some maintenance activities, replace the window in kind. And these are in section 902, subpart 1B. And our understanding of those actions not requiring review is that no certificate of appropriateness needs to be filed for those activities. And so in subpart 1B, we thought that might be clarifying text that could be added right after the text actions not requiring review, that for those actions, no application or certificate of appropriateness is required. I think that's what the ordinance is intended to say. The third request that we made is in section 3, also of 902, certificate of appropriateness applications. Number 6 in section 3 and number 4, number 6 in section 3 and number 3 in section 4 seem to be a little different in terms of the scheduling of the hearing. Whereas one is a direction that the commission schedules the hearing in 30 days, and the other is that they may schedule it. And so we just thought that consistency there would be important, understanding that, holiday, it might not always be the 30 days, but that would be what would happen. So if you have a complete application, you get a hearing in 30 days. Those are really the only comments we had. And again, I want to restate with it's very important for the city to become certified.
Thank you, Margaret. I think the way I'd like to proceed with this is this email came this afternoon, so we haven't really had a chance to digest it, and I get it. I would propose that Lisa and Debbie kind of look at your points. I would like to proceed with moving the adoption of the ordinance this evening, only because we worked on it for so long and the State Historic Preservation Office has declared it perfect. And while it may need some amendments, we'll look at what you're suggesting for clarifications. We need to make sure that that the State Historic Preservation Office signs off on it, because without that, we can't proceed, right? So all of this is overseen by the National Park Service. So if you would allow us to look at your points and respond to them, maybe clarify them, and then assuming that ordinance is adopted this evening, we can talk to the state about incorporating potential changes and amendments. But it feels pretty strongly that I would like to get this going because we have been doing it for so long, and we do have the support of the state as it's written. So happy to follow up with you if that's okay.
That's fine, that's fine. I'll leave you a couple extra copies of my letter. I appreciate that. And if I'm misinterpreting, that would also be important for someone to call me up and tell me that.
Absolutely. We'll follow up via email in the next few days.
Thank you, thank you.
bet. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to this?
Just real quick. Jeff Tittle, 33 Wilson Street. I think you should adopt tonight. It's critical to move this forward and start making the changes that we need to make. Time and so yes, so thank you.
Anyone online? Okay. Last thought, Councilman Forrest, motion?
I'm sorry. I guess I would just like to add that the Historic Commission, the historic zone in the city is currently the central business district. And we hope through the work that the commission is going forward, I'm sure they will make recommendations on how to properly expand this so it encompasses more than just a quarter mile, maybe that much of our city, because there are a lot of changes being made by focused residents who are making changes to their exterior that do not live in the central business district and are therefore outside the purview of the Historic Preservation Commission. So I look forward to working towards that goal to protect homes that have been built during the same time period as the central business district. But then again, we'll be under the purview for any changes to the facades of the buildings and the beautiful mansions and smaller worker houses that grew up and is part of our inventory. And it is one of the reasons why we're such a talked about destination, because of circumstances where when Lambertville went on and I read the Beacon from the Beacon, of course, I put that book together about Lambertville from the Beacon, where the importance of these buildings, no matter where they are, and how important they were to the city when it was mostly a manufacturing district and not so much just a residential and historic district, and very important for the 250th anniversary of our independence. So I think that it's about time that we proceed with this. And thank you so much for all your work in getting us to this. And I know our staff was very much involved, Cindy and Lindsay and Mayor, and working closely. And Cindy, sure. All of us who had input into that. And it's unfortunate. It's interesting when you look back, and the reason that this is happening now was because how our ordinances were and our resolutions were all looked at because of the terrible destruction done by Ida. And if it hadn't been for something as cataclysmic as that, would not have allowed us to get to this point where we are now to protect our historic city in a way that generations to come will still be able to come into this city and see its history living. So I thank you for all the effort that you put in and your support for this thing.
Yeah, and a point that Lisa's made a couple times is that, and it bears repeating, is that preservation efforts, preservation management at the local level is really fundamental to a community and the kind of community it wants to be. We often talk about the kind of community we are and that we want to be and we want to continue to be. And so to have the dedication of experts and people who understand preservation and the importance of managing it on the local level is it's a significant thing. And I have great gratitude for all of the work that the commission does.
Yeah, and I just want to say thank you to Lisa and Debbie for helping us and everybody, Cindy and the mayor, everybody who worked on this, because it's so important to be at this time, like we're going to reinvigorate kind of the historic preservation spirit that's always been here. I think it's a great teach-in for people who come that are new, and I really look forward to working on you to, kind of talk about more about design standards, what more we can do, because our history is our community experience that we all like. We don't really know how to express it all the time, but you're creating an avenue for us to be able to express it, enrich it, and, that experience is more important than, some of the other experiences that people want to bring to us. So our historic experience is like number one. Thanks.
And protect it.
Right.
And I completely agree. I think we should be expanding, obviously, the reach of this, and I look forward to, protecting what places, not just the central business district. I think that's very critical, and I know from my time on the historical board with Lisa, she was talking about that 4 years ago, so hopefully we'll be able to do that soon.
All right, may I have a motion to adopt on second reading, granting final approval to ordinance number 08-2025? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. May I have a motion to close the public hearing on this? Thank you, Lindsay.
Second.
All in favor of closing the public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you. It's easy to get lost every once in a while. So now I would ask for a motion to adopt on second reading, granting final approval to ordinance number 08-2025. I'll second it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. The next ordinance is ordinance number 10-2025. This ordinance would amend the revised general ordinances of the city of Lambertville, 1990 Z zoning 406 Central Business District, zoning 406.13 conditions for a cannabis retailer. We've also had some conversations about this before now. It was introduced and at the first reading on April 17th. There were a couple of conversations at previous meetings about ways in which we could potentially structure this. It was reviewed by the planning board, it got consistent with the master plan on May 7th by unanimous, I think it was unanimous vote. Yes, and here we are at the public hearing and second reading. So at this point, I would like to ask anyone who is interested in speaking to ordinance number 10-2025 to please step to the podium, say your name and address, etc. No one in the room. Is there anyone online? Okay. And a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance, please.
So moved.
Yeah, second.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries. And now I would ask for a motion to adopt on second reading, granting final approval of ordinance number 10-2025.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Correspondence, I previously noted the letter. Property owner development. JCP&L sent a petition to set a rate for rider loss revenue adjustment mechanisms. I'm not sure what it is, but anybody needs to know, let me know. Delaware Township is making some notice of amendments to their master plan. And state of New Jersey has an application period open for transportation. Just one. The only other thing I noted in Lambertville Matters, I just want to say it here, that I'm still working on a couple of projects in the city. The Church Street repaving held up just a little bit. The DOT has had some revisions to our final set of plans. I'm hoping to get those turned around pretty quickly. It may be in another month or so before we were able to go out to bid on that. And also we'll keep everybody informed about. So we wanted to just talk briefly about the potential sale of Union Chill. This is something that's come up in a couple of emails to me, and I know a couple of council members are interested in just understanding kind of what the process is here. And Bill had a conversation or an email exchange with the potential purchaser. And Bill, I just wanted to kind of walk us through the process of what this, how this would play out here in Lambertville or anywhere.
The attorney for the entity that was acquiring an interest in the existing Union Chill entity reached out and asked procedures with regard to local approvals for the transfer of interest. My understanding is that they have a pending application before the Cannabis Review Commission, which is the state commission that oversees recreational cannabis licenses. And the city's ordinance doesn't have a specific provision with regard to transfers. The only overlap really was that with regard to the permit process was that with regard to specific owners, they had to pass the background check. And the state law already requires that where there's a transfer of ownership interest in an entity that has a cannabis license, that the new owners pass a background check. So that would have been satisfied for the state. That was the only issue that I saw that they would have had to make an application to the city with regard to the transfer. So because this transfer is contingent upon state CRC approval, there's nothing really for the city to do. I did ask that the attorney provide a notice to the city of the transfer so that the city could update its files as to the new ownership interests in the existing entity. This doesn't impact the city's cannabis tax contribution agreement, because that's with the existing entities. So this transfer doesn't impact that. And when the city receives it, presuming or if and when the Cannabis Review Commission takes action on the transfer, the city will be notified of that. And they'll obviously have to update their application because the municipal permits are 1 year duration. So when they have to bring back their permit, the city will have the information. But as I said, I had to ask that they transfer is approved by the state. They provide the ownership interest, so the city have that information in possession for.
And there's no impact to planning board approvals or any existing anything else that you.
My understanding, based on what was represented to me by the attorneys, was that the only thing that was changing was who owned the existing licensee entity. Obviously, if there's an expansion of use that would impact their compliance with the zoning regulations for cannabis retailers, then they would have to deal with that. Then the city would definitely have a role to play there to step in, but just for transfer of interest in existing entities. As far as I know, as far as what they told me, there's no expansion or anything impacts the zoning aspect of the regulations.
So Bill, you're saying we can assume they will continue to operate as they have been when they were just Union Chill.
What was represented to me is that they're stepping into the shoes of the prior owners of Union Chill. Yes. That's what,
So they have no plans to expand the operation?
as far as I know.
Can they change their mind without without the city being involved?
No, there is a provision in the regulations in the code that they have to comply with all municipal zoning laws. So they have a conditional use approval from the planning board. So if there's any change or expansion in the existing use, they have to go back before the zoning board to stay in compliance with that.
There has been some, there's been some discontent among neighbors regarding the operation. Do we have an opportunity to step in and ask about remediation they may want to consider? I don't know offhand what those would be, but it's just an opportunity to kind of help the neighbors out.
Do we have any violations on file with regard to?
None that I know of.
What I would say is, I don't know the attorney well, I had 2 email exchanges with him, but if you have any suggestions, we'd be just happy to reach out to him again and let him know some of the issues that are going on and see if we can.
I think they possibly meet with the neighbors. That would be the first thing I would do.
Right, I would like to, yes, maybe suggest that we, have some type of a forum with them to meet with the neighbors, meet with the city. First of all, introduce themselves, so we get an opportunity to also share with them what we think good neighbors are and our businesses. But I know you guys are nodding out there, but in terms of the ongoing issues that we're able to deal with them, because they're new to the community and there've been issues, and whether or not it's adjusting the lighting to what goes on in the neighborhood, to providing a better buffer, how they allow people to double park. We have people who then have to rely on calling the police and doing some things. And really, if you're operating a business, it's incumbent upon you to take the first step to provide good service, have good patrons, and and we have that other places. They should be able to do that here.
Excellent. I'll have an initial conversation.
And then there was some things that were agreed on early on as far as how that site works, that were done. I think that I'm not quite sure how they got approved, what was the mechanism for approving them, other than the planning board and the traffic study. But I think there's some, now that we've been through it for a while, we should really re-examine the changes that were made and see if they work the way we thought they would. And I don't know if that's a planning board issue or something that you want to talk directly, to the applicants, the new owners on it.
May I ask what changes you mean?
No, there were exits and entrances. And there was a lot of concern about entrance and exits off of Elm Street. And so the solution at the time, and still that way, was you can only go in off of Elm Street, but you can go, and go out the driveway on North Union Street when it's, I think we should talk about the possibility of taking the entrance off of Elm Street and use it as an emergency entrance or exit. So that way it would stop cars from coming past the houses, not only down Elm Street, but also through the Elm Street entrance, and give the people who live along Elm Street a little break in the traffic, and have it just required to go in and out of the double driveway that's next to the restaurant.
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly look at this, but the driveway that is currently used as the exit, I don't know how wide it is, but and I'm sure the engineers looked at this and determined in terms of the best traffic flow. I'm happy to look at it. I don't know that, I have trouble visualizing that as a two-way driveway. I just don't know that it's wide enough.
I lived behind it for many years. I don't think that's wide enough.
Yeah.
On North Union where the Hatch House is, I don't think, but I think we should look at it.
Well, then maybe they could buffer the Elm Street, and right there. The lighting issue has been an issue,
Well, we can take a look at it, but the lighting is established by, this is a regulation established by the CRC. It's not I don't think it's a local condition.
I think
We should ask the neighbors.
Well, I think,
You know, that's all.
no, if the neighbors have specific concerns, no, you can write them to us and we'll address them as we always do. But, I don't want to get into a long discussion here. We don't have a planning board resolution, we don't have measurements, we don't have. we need to
Wait,
do
I
this-
should comment during the second public comment.
I think one
That's
thing
fine.
we should consider though is, do we want to have the city have the ability to approve these in the future, or should we be amending our ordinance? And I think that's absolutely something we should be doing, because unfortunately, I think this was an oversight. Certainly wasn't anything I thought of when I helped participate, from the public side to create this ordinance. We've had it for a couple of years. We always talked about how we were gonna modify it. That's certainly something I think we need to consider, because I was surprised when I saw the city did not have the ability to have a voice in the transfer of it. And when it comes to something like cannabis, I mean, the reality is the reason why the cannabis companies that are doing business here in Lambertville is because they came here, they sat to the meetings, they listened to the public, they established a dialogue with the neighbors. And if these new people are gonna come in and say, oh, well, this other person made those deals, I'm not gonna, listen to the neighbors, that's a big problem. And I don't wanna have to wait till the end of the year when that permit comes out to reissue it. I wanna get ahead of that. So I think we need to change the ordinance to prevent this from happening without us taking a position, so.
And they should have a forum with the neighbors. Right?
Well,
Well,
we
I mean,
can
we're
make that,
recommending.
we can make that happen. So
Right.
right now, we don't have a very loud voice in it because
Well-
it's already been approved and there's no, it's the cannabis commission.
I know, I mean, I think it's important that we air this. We see, the public has an opportunity to come forward, and to your point, Councilman, about a new entity coming in saying, well, I didn't know anything about those agreements, so I'm not accountable. You're right, we need to get ahead of that, and, having the public participate in that and communicate.
It's
is-
also a major corporation that wants to buy this over. Before it was, 2 people from New Hope and 2 other local people.
Right.
And this is a big, big difference. So
Yes.
we need to change the ordinance and update it to make sure that we can keep track of who's owning the businesses here.
Well, one thing that we were able to put into the ordinance, especially for Union Chill, was the landlord was to provide parking spaces for the residents along Elm Street that backed up to the parking lot. Now, I don't know if that's been done, but that's what the owner of the property was supposed to do. Dedicate parking for 1 car for each of those houses in the lot. So we'll might as well look at the.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's true. Yep.
Announcements. Pride Parade this Saturday, 11 a.m. We'll all be there, right?
Be there, be square.
Forward to it. Memorial Day, the City Hall offices are closed on Friday, May 23rd, and Monday, May 26th. Memorial Day Parade will be held on May 26th. Step off at 9 a.m., corner of North Union and Cherry Street. Department of Public Works will switch to its summer hours starting June 2nd. So that's an hour earlier. That's the heat, has to be out of the yard a little earlier in the day, hottest part of the day. So collection will begin at 6 a.m. So please plan accordingly. Second public participation session is now open. If you'd like to speak, please step to the podium unless you have mobility issues. If you would state your name and address, you have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time to state your questions or comments. Council may or may not respond.
Thank you. 33 Wilson Street. I'm not sure, but just one thing on Union Chill, coming out around, there's room, but I don't know if there's a wall there, is there a drop off?
There's a big drop off.
Yeah,
It's about
that's
6 feet.
so
There
it's
is 5 feet drop off.
Yeah, so that's would be your problem. I just wanted to bring up because I've been involved with this issue for years. So in New Jersey, the law is called the time of application law. It used to be in New Jersey that you could change the zoning up until preliminary approval at a planning board. In 2010, it was changed to the time of application. The application has to be complete. It has to have, there's a case on top of that called the Dunbar decision, where basically they found that the application wasn't complete. So therefore, well, the law says it has to be complete, but they found some misinformation and they kicked it out. There's a case in Franklin Lynch you can look up, but mean in Franklin Township, but point is in NJ 4455 D-10.5, you can, until the application is deemed complete by the planning board, you can make a change. Now to do, or any other ordinance that deals with land use. Now, doing zoning change might be time consuming, and as long as the changes are backed up by the master plan, but things like parking or stormwater or other things like that, you can do.
Susan Turkine, 207 North Union. I'm directly across from the back door of Union Shell. So I've had a bird's eye view. I was also on the traffic study with Steve. I don't believe, because we watched this pretty carefully, that if you had one way, what's gonna happen is they're gonna start parking on North Union even more. They're not gonna be able to take the turn into the parking lot. And from my observation, the easier the better. People double park, the cars running, it's still a problem. I mean, nobody's screamed at my door yet this year, which happened before, but also the driveway next to Hash House, a few of the people that we know, because it's a fairly tight community that work in the building, the Spoke Works building, so it's a terrible turn to try to make. The line of sight is awful. There probably should be some kind of a mirror or some kind of way to tell. But I mean, people almost get put there on a fairly regular basis. Also, people tend to pull in off Elm into the one-way, park there, run in, back out. They almost got my dogs the other day. I mean, and I went into the guy's face and he called me a very bad word, that should never be used. So I would appreciate and I would expect these new people to come and sit on my porch as the prior owners have. We and our row are the people that are directly affected on North Union. Andrew, I don't know if you have, anything affecting you being down just a house or two.
I think my order is right. I think my order is right.
But I think the traffic study was good for the time, but I think there is more traffic than we imagined. And more people, and I'm really hoping Pensy passes a, like a lead law, so that they will all leave. We just look at somebody doing something, incorrect, and it's Pennsylvania, but it's not our community that's doing this. So I don't know what the answers are, except yes, I would relish a conversation. No, I don't agree with you. And we need to add some kind of a mirror or something, because that is a bad turn by Hash House, which is getting more and more crowded because they're open now more hours, just as an FYI. So we have, the parking down there has become increasingly difficult.
There's a lot of pedestrians that walk there too, and if you're trying to make that turn, I mean, it's very unsafe there, you're right.
Yeah, it's really not a good turn, so to have, no more people should be dropping in and out of there. That's all, thank you.
Just a couple of
Call
things.
me when they're doing the talk tos.
Just a couple of things that we've done lately. So, I did ask Union Chill to put up those signs on Elm Street indicating one way into the parking lot. So that was at the request of one of the neighbors, and they did it immediately. The other thing that we did was put a stop sign at the exit of the Hash House. So because I walked out regularly, I almost got hit. I mean, just people don't necessarily think the sidewalk is a sidewalk when they're pulling out of there.
I know.
So we did put a stop sign there, and I've noticed it's a little bit better, but like a lot of places in Lambertville, if you're trying to turn left or right, any one of the side streets onto North Main Street, it can be super problematic. I mean, you would have to clear, 2 or 3 parking spaces to get really good sight distance down. And that's exactly true there as well. You have to inch out. And I know that people don't always inch out because they don't know what the heck they're doing or where they are. But I think that the stop sign has made a little bit of a difference.
That's a good addition.
The other thing that we thought about doing, and I'd be happy to, we haven't done yet, would be to put just a small sign in the verge of pedestrian, be caution, right? Pedestrian caution, exiting traffic or whatever, might be a little helpful as well.
May I suggest, since Hash House is open on Friday and Saturday nights, I believe, that perhaps be illuminated or you know, reflective and like bright green or something?
What?
The sign coming out of the parking lot.
Well,
you're
the
saying.
stop sign is just a regular
No,
stop sign.
but being pedestrian, if you're adding an additional sign, now that they're open in the evenings,
Right.
that it has to be a little more prominent than it was
They
before.
just put up that they're not gonna be open anymore for dinner.
Oh, good. Yeah, my parking's back there. But yeah, thank you for the stop sign, that's okay.
You know, we will more than likely have a meeting with our engineer on this. Just as you were speaking, and it's a tough exit from there. Maybe the decision is to say right turn only, so you don't have someone trying to make a left turn, which is almost blind.
Oh, horrible.
And then
People go down
perhaps
Cherry,
we
which
have
is
to,
better.
perhaps we have to eliminate a couple of spaces on either side of that driveway. You know, things that we didn't do at the time because parking is such an issue. But maybe we'll just readdress the ins and outs of that lot.
In addition, I might, I don't know if it already has, but I know that building has been up for sale. I don't know if it's sold yet. So has anybody talked to, I mean, I don't see who had owned it here. I don't know if it's been sold. So that's also, you know, part of the new owners will have to be on top of everything as well.
Well, my understanding is there's only one dedicated parking spot to that restaurant in that lot. That's
No, I mean of the Spoke Works. The Spoke Works building has been up
Oh.
for sale. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear.
I don't anticipate that being sold anytime soon.
Yeah.
I've spoken to the property owner several times recently. So,
And also, if I just take one more moment of your time, since the dispensary is open, a very active and respected commercial use has opened up where Rago building was used for, and it's now an engineering company.
The one that backs it up?
Hmm?
The commercial use, I'm not following it.
Yeah.
Where?
Maybe a middle one.
Yeah.
It opened up at the
Yeah.
north end of the Spokes Works.
Oh,
It was
okay.
vacant.
Yeah,
Because
no, the architectural firm.
Yes,
Yeah.
so that's also adding to the vehicular traffic back there, that's where I was going. So we'll look at it.
Okay, thank you. Looking forward to meeting.
Thank you.
anyone else in the room? Anyone else online? I'll make a motion to close the public comment period in a second. Second paragraph, please say aye.
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 And motion to adjourn, please.
Second.
Everybody seconded, everybody aye.
Aye.
Thank you.